Ascension approaches, we will overwhelm all who stand against our Ascension. All together, in unity, the cult reigns supreme.
The day of Ascension approaches. So you're new to Warpforge, and you're wondering whether the Genestealer Cults are the faction for you. Well, in this video we're going to go over the lore, we're going to cover their warlords, talk about their playstyle, and cover the main faction keywords. Then I'll give you some tips for collecting, and finish with a few different examples of decks. So, let's get into it, shall we? None can deny the Star Children's ascendance. Give praise to the master below. The Genestealer Cults are an insidious group of humans who have been genetically altered by Tyranid spores. Over generations, these spores have transformed the humans into a hive mind-controlled race of Xenos-human hybrids. Cults often infiltrate imperial worlds, slowly corrupting the population from within. They use their knowledge of human society to undermine imperial authority and prepare the planet for Tyranid invasion. Their goal is to create a vast network of sleeper agents, ready to rise up and assist the Tyranids when they arrive. Genestealer cults are known for their brutal tactics, their relentless pursuit of their goals, and their terrifying ability to blend seamlessly into human society. So there are 3 warlords in the Genestealer faction. The first one that you'll start out with is Iconward Malak Vorenth. Now this guy is 35 health, pretty standard stats, and his talent reads Nexus of Devotion, heal 1 to your units. That obviously includes himself. Whenever it says units, that includes the warlord. Give them +1 melee, +1 range. This guy's not a bad starting warlord, pretty good at buffing you, making your flanking troops a little bit more powerful when they come on, and also if you're able to go wide, and set up some pretty devastating finishes. However, there are much better warlords in this faction. Next up, we have Magus Uthril Nas. Now, right now, time of recording, this guy is one of the more powerful and higher win rate warlords in the game. The talent Broodlord Prophet is what separates him out. As you can see, his stats are pretty normal, but the Brood Prophet reads, Ephemeral, choose a Genestealer Cult troop and add it to your hand. Lower its cost by 1. Now, whenever it says choose in Warpforge, what that means, it will show you 3 choices, 3 cards, and you get to pick one. And as this description stands, it will basically show you any troop in the entire faction. It's not a troop that's in your deck. So this gives you access to cards that are outside of your deck. But the best thing is you can really see what the situation on board is, what mana curve you're at, and you can choose accordingly. Next up, we've got Primus Saphiriana, and this is definitely one of my favourite warlords. Saphiriana is a warlord, is the legendary warlord. Her ability leads to consistency. Basically, she can choose one of the following. She can either draw a troop, draw a stratagem from your deck, or heal 1 to your units. Now, it's rare you use the heal, although occasionally that does make sense, such as healing a Locus from 2 to 2 health back to 3, and then you attack and it can stun again. But most of the time you're using it, you're trying to decide, do you want a troop or a stratagem? This led to one of the very early broken combos in the game, where we essentially drew the stratagem that discounted all of our cards by 3 and played out a big combo. So let's take a look at the Uprising keyword. This says, do something when you deploy another troop of the same turn as this one. Now we can see from this Metamorph that gets a bonus to stats every time Uprising is triggered. We can have these huge turns where we combo out and trigger and stack the ability of Uprising. In this instance, we have both the Neophyte Leader and we have the Metamorph Hybrid, both triggering multiple versions of Hybrid, and it leads to these board states where we have ginormous boards and huge tempo swings against our opponent. This is a really strong keyword and one of the real strengths of the Genestealer Cults faction. So, let's take a look at the ambush keyword. Ambush reads, troop is deployed hidden in play until interacted with. Trigger X, with that being the ability, when revealed during this turn. Now we can see here we have a card called Sanctus. His ambush ability reads, destroy a random enemy troop. When we deploy an ambush card, you can see the back of the card back, so your opponent doesn't know what's been played. Your energy will also come up as a question mark, so we won't know how much you've actually spent on the ambush card, making it harder for him to guess. As you can see, when you actually attack with it, it comes out of hiding and triggers its ambush ability. Ambush is quite a difficult thing to pull off and benefits, as we just saw there, from having flanking support. But it can keep your opponent guessing, right? And they can attack the wrong stat and take additional damage that they wouldn't have normally taken. Sabotage ability says, create a sabotage card in the enemy hand with a negative effect until it is played. Some sabotage cards allow you to actually choose a choice between one of 4 cards to play, and others, like the Benefictus here, specifically say put poison supplies into hand. Your opponent will now be stuck with this card in their hand and have to play out the mana value to get rid of it. If they don't get rid of it, a negative effect will trigger at the end of the turn. Poison supplies, for example, deals 1 damage to all of their troops every time at the end of their turn. This packs a lot of pressure on your opponent and disrupts their tempo. So the main strengths of the Genestealer faction is that it's a very, very good tempo faction, and it has excellent disruption of your enemy hand and enemy plans. The other big strength to the Genestealers, and something I find very satisfying when playing them, is that there are many kind of mini combos to be had between the cards. There's an excellent synergy in the design, and that can open up multiple win conditions. That does make the deck and the faction, I would say, a slightly more complex faction, and you'll see people play it making many more mistakes. But that also means that it's a faction that you can really learn, really improve your game and really master, and once you do, it has a really high power ceiling and is one of the more powerful factions. A few of the weaknesses obviously involve the fact that those complexities can mean that you make a lot of mistakes, that it's harder to put the combo pieces together. The faction doesn't really have any broad AoE stratagems as well, so it can struggle if it does fall behind to kind of go wide tactics. And it doesn't have any 40 health warlords either, so it can be susceptible to being beat down. There's not much heal in the faction. But overall, it's a very fun faction to play, and very powerful once you master its mechanics. So let's take a look at some collecting tips. If we click on the rewards, go on to campaign and select the Genestealer icon here. You will see that it switches to the Genestealer Cults campaign. It'll tell you whether you've got the premium or not, how many campaign points you've currently got. These are what we spend to unlock these nodes, working from left to right across the campaign map until we reach the end. My advice is, rather than trying to collect every single node as you go, pick a lane, like go all the way across the top or all the way down the bottom. Basically pick a lane and race to get to the end as fast as you can. Now if you complete all your daily missions, you'll be able to get to this end node in about 6 to 7 days. And that's important because here you will unlock legendary cards. Now, if you've got the premium campaign, which I highly recommend, this is the best value for money purchase you can make in the game. Not only will you get the reward on the left, but there's a secondary reward on the right, which is only available to premium campaign members. Every time you find a node with these spikes coming out of it, that means that there is a secondary reward. Once you've opened those legendaries on the end there, you will have enough to essentially unlocked 4 legendary cards, because you had those 1 at the beginning, and you will have unlocked enough points in the Forge to be able to reach level 10, which actually also gives you another legendary wildcard. To begin the Genestealer campaign, all you've got to do is select the icon, complete one mission, which will give you enough campaign points to unlock the first node. When you do this, you will unlock a free 30 card deck straight away. By the way, you can do this with every single faction. So that's a free 30 card deck you could unlock for every faction simply by completing one mission. One thing that's pretty cool as a passive benefit to having a premium campaign is on your daily login bonus. Just for logging in, you'll get an extra 200 campaign points for each faction that you have purchased the premium campaign for. Just for logging in. The day of Ascension approaches! Alright, let's take a look now at some of the key cards that you're going to want to craft. One of the things that beginners always ask me is, what order should I craft my legendary cards? Now guys, this faction, you are super spoiled. The legendary cards are excellent. Now, if I'm honest, as even though Primus Safariana is probably my favourite Warlord, and I think she's excellent, you can easily get away with leaving that till later because Magus is so good. Once you've unlocked Magus, which is an epic Warlord, I would say hold off on Rihanna and spend it on the others. And the reason for that is because there are so many other brilliant legendary cards. Now, do not get all excited and captivated by the Patriarch. This is a really expensive unit. It's not bad, but it's nowhere near as good as the other legendaries, so I would definitely not be going for that one. If you watch my card tier list that I've done for this faction, I actually have the Saboteur as the #1 card in the faction. This card leads to so many combos, it is unbelievable. It's a really, really, really powerful card. I would make this my first purchase in the legendaries. I also think Perfect Ambush is excellent. It makes a unit invulnerable until the start of your next turn, and this ends up being a key part of multiple combos that you can do in the faction. So I would probably say Saboteur and Ambush would be the first two I would collect. After that, I would say that the Telepathic Domination is a really unique and cool finisher. Being able to steal your opponent's troop and then hit them in the face, in the Warlord's face, that's what Fast does. That is a super powerful counter, and it will have your opponent not wanting to play big units at the end game. So I think those are that would be my third choice. And then next up, it's close between the Neophyte Leader and Sanctus. Sanctus acts as a bit like the hard removal in the faction, and the Neophyte Leader acts as a very key combo piece because you can basically go off with the Neophyte and multiple other cards, triggering its uprising, giving everything +1/+1, including units that were already on the board. Sorry, troops, not units. It doesn't boost your Warlord, but troops that were already on the board. So Neophyte's a really key combo piece. I would say Neophyte or Sanctus you could go for as the next ones. And then at that point, that's when you could really make a decision between Sappha, Icon, and Patriarch would probably be the last one I'd go for. Okay, outside of the the legendary cards, what are some of the key cards that play? Well, the first one I want to talk about is this one. The Genestealer Familiar is an absolutely brilliant card. It's an epic card, and it gives flank to a friendly troop. And so again, comboing with units that can basically trigger their ambush straight away, or things like Sanctus that's hard removal, or it's essentially giving powerful flankers. It also has a Makari-like ability that it boosts units by +1 melee, and that includes your Warlord. Fantastic card in every single deck. Another really, really key card is the Biophagus. The Biophagus, when you first look at this card, I understand as a beginner you might look at this and go, this looks terrible, the stats aren't great. Guys, it's one of the best 3-drops in the game. Why? Well, first of all, it comes down in stealth, so your opponent can't actually attack it back. Secondly, it automatically plays poison supplies, and your opponent is going to want to get rid of this, and that means that on their turn 3 or 4, they've got to spend 2 energy just getting rid of this card from the hand. That makes Biophagus a really good tempo disruptor. It really messes with your opponent's curve and will really frustrate them and lead them to make this play. So Biophagus is a critical 3-drop and should be in most decks. There are many good 3-drops. The Locus is a good one. The Neophyte Iconbearer is also great because this is another combo piece that enables you to essentially create Neophyte initiatives. The day of Ascension approaches, and put them in your hand, leading to some really powerful combos. And the last one I'll talk about is the Nexus. The Nexus is an excellent 4-drop. It's a stealth unit, so opponent can't remove it. And it has a really unique ability, which basically means you could play loads of spells the next turn, and it will boast not just the Nexus, but any other units, including your Warlord. And that can lead to huge turns where you suddenly put down 15 damage, either to end the game or to clear the board.
Give praise to the master below.
Alright, let's take a look at some of the decks. Now, if you're a beginner and you're starting out, I recommend something like this. This will give you, this deck essentially only uses the kind of core and the rare, the common and the rare cards. Now, I have put in Ridgerunner, who is the Warlord, which is a legendary Warlord, but you could quite easily swap this out for the beginner Warlord, which is Iconward Vorenth. So let's just do that. Basically, now what you've got is a deck that doesn't have anything beyond the rare, which is the little green diamond. That means you could basically have this deck within the first couple of days of playing the game. And what I've done here is I've put together a deck that has a really nice tempo curve and makes use of some of the sabotage cards that get you used to kind of the disruption play of the GSC. It's got a nice bit of removal and some pretty big finishes too. This is quite a powerful beginner deck, to be honest, guys, and this will develop really nicely as you go ahead and collect the cards into a pro version, whether we do Sappho or Magus. I'll show you the Magus one, for example. This is a deck right now that is one of the best decks in the game. It's very, very, very powerful and very, very, you know, fine-tuned with, as you'd expect, legendary cards and all sorts of goodies in there. So I think if you take that beginner deck and start to unlock the cards, this will work out quite well. So there you go, guys. I hope you found that helpful. We've gone over the lore, the Warlords, the playstyle, or the main keywords of the faction, and hopefully you found the collecting and deck building tips useful too. If you like that, then go and check out some of my other videos. Particularly recommend the Warpforge fundamentals if you're new, or if you love the Genestealers, why don't you dive in and watch the full card tier list that I've done, or more recently my Magus beatdown video, which kind of shows you a tier 1 deck in action. Either way, thank you very much. I hope this has helped. Please like and subscribe to the channel for more Warpforge content. Take it easy.